Today I'm going to be reviewing another finance book, which is this one here, and it's called Money Made Simple. Now, this one is written by Sam Stubbs, which is one of the founders of Simplicity Kiwi Saver. Now, this is a tiny finance book, only around 100 pages long, and it's about the size of my hand. So this is probably the most smallest finance book that I have ever seen. So in the book, Sam talks about the 3 simple truths about money and 8 golden rules of money. So let's just go through all of them. So simple truth number 1, we should talk about money. So what does this mean? Now, many Kiwis don't enjoy talking about money. Now, whether or not we think it's just not polite, or simply we think that we don't know enough. In the book, Sam says that many Kiwis have no problem talking about things like parenting, or even how much they like or dislike certain policies, political parties, or political party members. Those are things that are not out of bounds for discussion, but however, for some reason, money is. And this is something that we need to change. Now, the mainstream media usually tries to scare people by telling stories of people wasting away money that they've got, especially the lottery winners. Now, they love to tell stories of how lottery winners waste away all their money. But realistically, don't be afraid. It really is okay to talk about these things. If we can make talking about money something a little bit more casual, we could talk about property prices, mortgage rates, how the economy is going, where would it be good to invest your hard-earned money, and we can learn or not to fear it. Simple truth number 2 is that it's how we think about money that actually matters. Now, many people only think about what they have to spend right now, but a better way to think about money is your net worth. Now, what do you mean by net worth? Now, this is what you have left if you sold off everything and paid off all your debt. You have to think about money in terms of increasing your net worth and not just maximizing your cash right now. Things like cars or bikes does not count towards your net worth because they tend to depreciate in value. If you think in terms of building up your net worth, generally you can make better decisions with your money. Now, if you keep on increasing your investment, whether through KiwiSaver, buying a house, or through other investments, eventually you'll have a much larger net worth. Many of the richest people out there are asset rich and cash poor. Now, they have enough money in the bank to basically fund their lifestyle. But most of it is in properties or in company shares. So whenever someone says, why don't Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos solve world hunger if they're so rich, you would immediately know that these people that are saying that don't have a firm grasp of what is asset rich actually means. If they sell all their shares in their company to get a lot of cash, they would essentially be giving up control of their own company. And why on earth would they do that? Simple truth number 3 is that understanding compounding return really matters. So what compounding is where your interest ends up making you more interest. So compounding interest increases your long-term net worth, while a compounding debt will decrease your long-term net worth. So with the 3 simple truths out of the way, let's talk about Sam's 8 golden rules of money. So first of all is to pay off your debts. Now, Sam lists 2 main ways to avoid getting into debt. One is cut up your credit cards. So credit cards can easily have interest of up to 18% or even more. Now, you'll end up paying off very expensive interest if you don't pay off your credit card in full every month. Number 2 is spend what you actually earn. Now, this might be easy for some people and hard for some others. Now, but the main idea is to overall live more frugally. If you are simply able to save $3 a day simply by not eating that bag of lolly or sweets, now that's a saving of over $1,000 per year, and you would barely even notice. The second golden rule of money is to invest in education. So studies have shown that a university degree is worth about 1 million extra in lifetime earnings. Now, even if you don't go to uni, apprenticeship can also be a good way to help increase your potential earnings. In New Zealand, we still have an interest-free student loan, so you can really take advantage of that to increase your future earning potential. Golden rule number 3 is to buy a house if you can and pay it off as quickly as possible. Now, New Zealand encourages personal home ownership since there's no capital gains tax on your main home. Now, I know everyone talks about it, but in New Zealand, having a home and then paying it off is by far the most reliable way to be financially stable. But what happens if you can't actually afford to buy? Now, there's a couple of tips to potentially help you get started. So the first one is get a KiwiSaver if you haven't already. Even children can sign up to a KiwiSaver. Now, the next one is buy a house using shared equity. Now, buying with shared equity is basically buying a house with friends or family. Now, be sure to get some legal advice to set up a good contract before you actually pursue that. The next option is to buy a smaller home. Now, think about what's the smallest place that you could live in and potentially consider buying a smaller home if you don't need a big place. There is also a huge market these days in tiny homes and movable homes, and there's plenty of resources that you can look up if you're into all of that. The next option is to live a little bit further away. Now, houses are generally cheaper if you are far from the main city centers, and that's not really a surprise. And if you are okay with that, and you could potentially find a cheaper price for housing a little bit further away. The next option is kind of controversial, which is to rent forever. So in some of the more developed countries in Europe, such as France or Germany, it's not uncommon for people to pretty much rent forever. Long-term rentals are far more common in countries like that, and one day it may become the norm here in New Zealand as well. The fourth golden rule is to get into KiwiSaver. So KiwiSaver was created in 2007 as a way to help people save for retirement. So why have a KiwiSaver? Now, KiwiSaver can be used in times of significant hardship or when buying a first home. Now, your employer has to contribute at least 3% for you, and you can get up to $521 per year in terms of government subsidy. And kids can also benefit from having KiwiSaver since they can start compounding their investment really early on. I know that tons of people have talked about KiwiSaver already, and there's no real huge downside when it comes to KiwiSaver, so just get it already. The fifth golden rule is to stop paying high fees and high interest. So if your investment makes 5% a year and you pay 1% in terms of fees, and while that might not seem like a lot, you are essentially paying 20% of your earnings in terms of fees. In 2021, banks made over $6 billion in terms of profits by taking in money from people in terms of deposits and then lending them out in terms of loans. So you want to be very vigilant of fees and high interest debts. Number 6 is to choose diversified passive funds. Now, if you are looking to invest outside of KiwiSaver, one of the best advice is to diversify your investments. Now, this means that if a disaster were to happen, you won't lose all your money in one go. And the one thing that you can be sure of is that disasters always happen. Most KiwiSaver funds invest in many companies from different countries around the world and are fairly well diversified. Now, Sam advises choosing a passively managed fund because of the lower fees of the fund and the fact that chances of an active fund manager actually beating the market, like after the fees, is actually less than 20%. Golden rule number 7 is to have a rainy day fund. Now, set up a little bit of money aside each week or each month just in case for emergencies. So Sam advises to aim for around 1% of your net worth or around 2 months income. Golden rule number 8 is to have some basic insurance. So Sam's rule of thumb is to have your life insured for the value of your mortgage plus 2 years of income. Now, you should also have your house insured for its replacement value as well as some of the more expensive possessions. Travel insurance is also important to have in case of medical emergencies overseas. Overall, what I do like about this book is that it gives you the idea that managing money does not have to be something that's extremely complicated. He basically outlines ways that can help you streamline your money management process. That's something actually really helpful, because if you spend less time actually trying to figure out where to put whatever money where, you can spend a whole lot of time more focus on things that actually you should be doing. The book is very tiny, very easy to carry around. I also like how it gives you some rough guidelines of how much you should aim for if you were to save up for rainy funds, and the amount that you should have in terms of your insurance. So you can pick up this in bookstores, which I know there's not a ton of bookstores left, and I believe if you're a Simplicity member, you can get this for free. And I'll see you guys next time.